Hello everybody, it's Anime Ace here, and today I'm going to be comparing and contrasting anime versus manga. I'm going to be talking about what I like and dislike with both anime and manga, and then I'm going to go over why I like manga the best, because I do prefer manga to anime. Now, I also love anime, and it's really close for me, and I like them both for very different reasons. I mean, it's two different media. It's not like sub versus dub, because you're still watching anime. Either way, manga versus anime is two completely different ways of consuming sort of the same story. So I feel like there's quite a few more differences in between anime and manga versus subbed and dubbed. So I'm just gonna go into that right now. What I like about anime isn't necessarily the animation or even the voice acting. My favorite thing about anime is probably the music, like the themes and the openings and endings. That's probably my favorite part about anime, and that's why it's so close, because in manga you don't have that music, and I really like the music that most anime have. So it plays a big role in my enjoyment of what I'm watching. And with anime, sometimes the animation is good, sometimes the animation is bad, sometimes the voice acting is good, sometimes it's bad, which is the same thing with manga, because sometimes stuff's not going to be drawn very well, stuff might be written in a convoluted fashion that you can't really read what they're talking about, you don't know what they're trying to say, so that's it really just depends what you're watching or reading when it comes to that, because it's like not a problem for just anime or just manga. Both media have issues with, drawings versus animation, although of course manga's not going to have any problems with voice acting, because there's no voice acting in a manga. Another thing that I kind of think anime has an edge over in some situations, other than the music obviously, is that I find it easier often to tell what's going on in anime versus manga. Now, I don't know if it's because of the colors. I don't know, when it's black and white in manga, so I feel like sometimes stuff sort of like blends in a little bit, especially when there's like a lot going on in like an action scene or something. There's a bunch of debris and stuff flying around. I have read mangas before where someone's arm got cut off, and because there was so much debris flying around, I never even noticed until like a whole chapter later. That doesn't normally happen with anime, but of course I feel like anime puts more emphasis on it, like zooms in on what's happening, gives more internal monologue or whatever, because anime obviously is supposed to add on to the original story. So there's more context as to what's going on, and I think that gives it a little bit of an edge. Side note, I do also find info dumps more tolerable in anime than manga. Maybe it's because anime has more info dumps than manga does, but I don't know. When I open up a manga and I see just a whole page's worth of exposition, and it's just basically a book, there's not even any pictures anymore, it's just all exposition, it makes me just want to close the manga and just walk away. With anime, I feel like it's more tolerable. Maybe it's because you don't know how much exposition there actually is, because you have to hear the people explain it all, versus you open up a manga, it's all right there, and it's overwhelming just how much there is. Of course, in both manga and anime, that's a problem with the story if there's a huge exposition dump just chilling there, but I feel like it's more tolerable in anime than manga. I don't know, maybe it just isn't as overwhelming because it's not all thrown at you at once. And speaking of thrown at you at once, I gotta talk about the mangas that have a lot going on both pages. Like, there's a whole bunch of small pictures with small dialogue boxes, like the author's trying to cram as much stuff into one chapter as humanly possible, which I think is both good and bad. I like getting extra content, I like getting as much content as possible, but sometimes it gets a little bit ridiculous. And actually, when I was reading One Piece, I noticed that towards the end of Wano, those pages are getting really cluttered. Like, I would just open up. Well, it's like I moved from Black Clover to One Piece, and then I realized, like, there's so much. It's like I started getting overwhelmed just looking at how much stuff there was. It's like it takes me an entire chapter's worth of time. It'd take me to read a normal chapter, just read 2 pages of what was in the One Piece manga on each individual page, which is both good and bad. It gives you more to read when it comes out, but it's also like, it's just a lot to take in. And also, at that point, the words in the pictures are so small, I start to have trouble reading it at that point. If I gotta get down there and just sort of like zoom in as close as possible to be able to read what you're writing, you might have put in too much. I know your heart's in a good place, but like, it's a little much. I do love One Piece, it's just, oh boy, I shouldn't have brought up that example. I guess I should talk about what I don't like about anime then. Well, I mean, my problems with anime basically are what everyone else has problems with. Well, there's a lot of the times a lot of filler content, which is both good and bad. I like filler a lot of the time, which is weird. I know a lot of people don't like filler, but I like filler sometimes. It's just, it starts bogging down the story after a while when there's too much of it. An episode here or there to provide some downtime isn't a bad thing. It just depends on where the episodes are put into the series and the content of the episodes. Just because it's filler doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. I just feel like a lot of the times when series do put in filler, it's a lot of filler. It's not just an episode here or there or a little bit extra dialogue or anything like that. I'll never mind a little bit of extra dialogue or context to something. I mean, that's the whole point of anime, to add more context to stuff. But like, sometimes it's a lot. And I didn't watch the anime for One Piece. I stopped after a while and I switched to the manga because that's just what I preferred at the time. But I heard, like, in Dressrosa, the episodes and the filler, like, they were only adapting, like, 1 chapter an episode. It's like that type of stuff is a reason why I prefer manga more, is because you don't have to deal with that. Another thing that's a huge issue for me is also animation and voice acting. When there's no animation and voice acting like in manga, you don't have to worry about it. But in anime, if you have bad voice acting or bad animation, it's just, it takes away from the experience so much versus not having it at all. I'd rather not have it at all than have it and it be really, really bad. Now, I don't think I've watched very many animes where the animation is just so atrocious that I just have to stop and stare in awe of how bad it is, because I normally don't really care about animation. I kind of feel like, to me, all animation kind of looks the same. People who really care about animation are going to be so mad at me, but I just feel like it all kind of looks the same. Like, I can tell the difference versus something like old Dragon Ball versus Demon Slayer. Like, I'm not stupid, but it just doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm there for the content and the story and the characters. I'm not really there for the animation. Of course, if animation is the most important thing, then I don't know why you would ever read manga if the animation is the only important thing, but to me, it's not. So with bad animation, it's really hard for me to look at animation and say it's bad when I don't really care. But sometimes it's really, really bad and it just takes away from the experience. And for people where the animation is very important, I imagine that it's just not good to watch. The thing that affects me more is the voice acting. I cannot stand when I I can barely even listen to the voice actors for one reason or another. Either the voice acting is atrocious, or I just don't think the voice is right for the character. I can barely even watch this series. It's just so bad. I guess with anime, it's more of a commitment because you don't really stop in the middle of anime episodes. It's not like you get like 10 minutes into an episode and then go, I'm gonna go do something else now. No, you gotta sit there for the whole like 20 minutes and watch it. I mean, it's a commitment, especially if you have trouble focusing, to just sit there and watch it. I guess that's why manga is better for me, because I can just read a chapter and then put it down and not feel like I have just stopped in the middle of doing a task and walk away like if I stop in the middle of an anime episode. I feel like manga's more forgiving in that respect. Or maybe that just means I have commitment issues. You have to wait for a manga to be adapted into an anime before you watch it if you only watch anime. I mean, I did that with Overlord, where I just waited for the anime to come out, and it was like, it's just painful waiting week to week. And that is just completely because I'm impatient. I cannot wait to watch and wait for anime episodes to come out when the manga is just right there and I don't have to wait. With people with more patience than me, more power to you, but I could not wait. Also, some mangas don't have animes at all, and I know there's vice versa where some animes don't have mangas, but it's like, I guess it's kind of annoying to hear about like something that, oh, I might want to watch that, and then you realize it's just a manga and there's no anime to it. I imagine that'd be quite annoying. Alright, time for manga now, I guess. This video is gonna be so long. So with manga, I've already talked about it a bit, so hopefully it won't take as long. One reason why I like manga a lot isn't just because I can read it at my own pace, like I said before. I like just being able to just pick up a chapter here and there if I want to, and not just be forced to spend 20 minutes watching an anime episode. I also can just, if the series is already all come out, I can just blitz through the entire series and just binge read it all. I tend to have a better time binge reading versus binge watching. I don't know why that is. That's probably just a personal thing for me, but for some people it doesn't matter. But I do appreciate that the manga often has the most accurate version to the original content, which is not always true, because there was parts, again, using One Piece. What is wrong with me? Parts that were added into the One Piece anime that the author wanted to add to the manga but didn't have enough time to do so. And I'd say that that's more faithful to the original. I consider the most faithful to the original is what the artist or the author originally wanted in their story. Whichever version has the closest interpretation to what the author originally wanted, I think that that's the most accurate to the original, which isn't always the manga, but it's usually the manga, and I prefer seeing that version. It's a more pure version. I don't know what I'm talking about. Also, manga has no filler, which I had to go through Bleach and write down each episode and which episodes were filler so I could avoid them. And then I just switched to manga, and it made it so much easier. And now, like I said, I don't mind filler in some situations, and a lot of the Bleach filler episodes that people said were really bad, I watched some of them, and I didn't think that they were really bad. Like, they didn't develop the plot at all, but I thought that they were alright. They weren't, like, terrible. I guess it's just because people don't like filler. Some people like filler, some people don't. It's just Bleach had way too much for me to sit through it all. Every time I see filler, I just have to sit there and wonder, do I want to continue watching it and just sit through the filler, or do I want to skip it? I had that whole thing with Fairy Tail where I was debating on whether I should watch the filler before the Tartarus arc or if I should just skip it. I did end up watching it, and it wasn't that bad, but it's like, I don't know, maybe I just like being a completionist. So it kind of hurts me a bit when I skip anime episodes. It's like, that's part of the series. Technically, I'm skipping over it. I feel like I'm missing something even if I'm not. So I like manga, no filler. I don't have to debate with myself and convince myself that I'm not missing anything by skipping the filler. And for the animation versus the artwork of manga, I don't know. I feel like I like looking at the artwork of manga better than watching the animation in an anime. Now, sometimes it depends, but I don't know. I just like like when I open up a manga and look at the pages, to just sit there for like 30 seconds and stare at like a full page spread instead of it moving by so quickly I can't even look at it. With animation, I try to catch every little detail, and it's like I like to just sit there and be able to look at it. I don't like feeling rushed, and sometimes anime makes me feel rushed. Also, another thing I wanted to talk about that I mentioned in the sub versus dub video is my minuscule attention span. I feel like I can focus better on reading a manga than I can on watching an anime. Maybe it's because sometimes things just flow by so fast, I can't really understand what's happening in the animation, like what's going on, so I just sort of zone out. Versus manga, I can just sit there and comprehend what I'm reading. Because animation can really go to like 0 to 100, where it's like there's nothing going on and it's just people talking and then a massive battle, and it's either really like get your focus in on it, or there's way too much going on and you just start to zone out because you can't even focus on one thing anymore because they've put way too much into one scene and you can't even tell what's going on anymore. I feel like manga mostly has that problem because to me stuff just blends in, because with no colors it's kind of hard for me to distinguish stuff. I feel like most people pay better attention to anime because of all the animation and stuff going on, and sometimes that's true for me too, but I feel like a lot of times I can just focus better on manga. Another reason is kind of because I like knowing stuff ahead, so I have a lesser chance of getting spoiled. Because if you like look up animes, a lot of the time manga content, at least for me, will pop up and then I'll get spoiled for something, and it's really annoying. In the end, my preference is manga. I also love anime. I feel like manga has that slight edge over anime for the previous reasons stated. Well, that's all I have to say about that. If you have any other video ideas you might want me to try, you can put it in the comments down below. Maybe I can do it, maybe I can't. Who knows? Like and subscribe if you want. Bye.